All right, today we're gonna go check out another epic home studio, and today's guest is audio engineer and mixer Sean Moffitt. Sean is a 3-time Grammy Award-winning engineer who's worked with artists such as Keith Urban, Lady A, Diplo, Need to Breathe, Ben Rector. What I personally think is cool is he's working with not only like A-list really great artists, but a variety of genres. He's not just doing one thing, and that is super cool. I'll put a link to Sean down below. Give him a follow, see what he's up to, shoot him a message. Thank you, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this video. This week, I want to shout out one of my favorite snare drums. It is the Bell Brass Snare Drum from Gretsch Drums. Now, Gretsch, you should know Gretsch if you don't. Some of the greatest vintage sounding drums and brand new drums. This Bell Brass I've had for 6 months, 8 months, something like that, and it is unbelievable. If you've seen some of the One Song One Day videos on the channel, we have used it. It sounds so good. I used it in my sample pack because it's like the perfect studio drum kit snare drum. If you want to hear it, go check out that production playlist on the channel. If you want to check the snare drum out for yourself, pick one up. There's a link to it in the description. Thank you again, Sweetwater, for sponsoring this video. As always, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're not subscribed yet. Let me know what you think of Sean's studio down below, and let's go check it out.
How's it going? I'm Sean Moffitt, and welcome to Yoda's Palace Mixing Room in Brentwood, Tennessee.
Wow. This is so cool. What was the name again? Yoda's Palace?
Yoda's Palace, yeah.
I love that. How long have you been in this room?
I've been here for about 4 years. This is actually a replica of another studio that I had for about 5 years prior. We wanted to change areas of town, but I wanted to keep all the dimensions and all the different things. So I was fortunate to find a place that was able to facilitate those dimensions.
Do you know what the floor plan or dimensions of this room are?
Yeah, it's a 16 wide. By 24 to the wall. And then behind this fabric here, if you pan back that way, is another 6 feet.
Oh, wow.
And it goes to a concrete wall. And back there is a lot of hanging, absorption, and diffusion on basically 4x8 sheets of plywood. So we have a mixture of a lot of absorption and then diffusion, kind of just livening up the room a little bit.
Wow. And what's this thing in the middle here? What's this made out of?
So this is wood pulp. A, it's cool. B, I love the color. I love that whole chevron blue.
Oh, yeah.
But wood pulp does a really good job of diffusion, so I love it. It's really cool.
Yeah, this is really nice. Is there a name for this kind of wall?
Yeah, it's just basically, this is just black fabric, and I wanted something aesthetically that looked nice. These sections right here, and then the sound kind of gets let through here, and it kind of deadens and excites the room. I don't really like dead rooms. I like to kind of learn the ambience of my room, and so I think with a combination of drywall, a lot of bass traps, and absorption is like kind of how I lean, so I don't feel like I'm just in a
vacuum.
Yeah, I just don't do well in that situation.
I'm in that room. I'm in the pillowcase.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense for a lot of people, but for me, I want to feel like I'm alive.
I do need some diffusion. I've recently discovered like I have to turn my speakers up too much to compensate because it's just getting sucked into the wall.
Totally.
This is really nice, man. I like the mixture of the material in the front and then the nice fabric on the panels in the back. What's
really cool about this front wall, my buddy Mike, Sporadic Music, look him up. He built this studio for me. He came hip to a barn that was getting torn down in Thompson Station. So he nabbed a bunch of barnwood. But this whole front wall behind the barnwood is packed full with 703. It's actually a very, very absorbent wall. Really helps kind of bring these speakers to life, the bounce back and the tightness. And then, obviously in these corners, a ton of bass trap, and then in these little pockets on either side, there's tons of bass trapping as well.
The only other thing I wanted to ask you about is this cloud. So how it's connected to the beam here and then in the front, but also you've got like a drop ceiling. Is that actually a drop ceiling or is that fabric?
That is a drop ceiling grid. And this is all Mike Therrett, Sporadic Music. And when we bought this room, I was telling you before we started rolling, this was like where the HVAC and everything was in. So we had to move all the house mechanicals to a different area in the basement. And in here was two concrete pillars, like steel pillars holding up first, second, and third floor. We had to put in, a really sort of structured, engineered beam in there. From this side of the room to the wall, the ceiling is actually another foot higher than back here. And I love the idea of having, you know, obviously from a sonic standpoint, you want kind of the sound to kind of go up as you listen.
Yeah.
And so Mike's like, dude, why don't we just do a drop ceiling grid and I'll make 703 panels that fit it and, you know, put fabric on it. And so that's kind of like his trademark thing. Like I don't think many guys ever doing that, but it was just a really innovative approach. I think it looks awesome, and it does exactly what I need sonically, you know?
So tell me a little bit about what you're doing in this room.
So this is a mix-only place. In fact, I do not own a microphone. I'm kind of happy about that.
Yeah, nice.
You know, it's a hybrid mixing setup, you know, 100% mix situation that, you know, I've learned to love and just really, I love making records down here. And it's a hybrid setup, analog gear. Still, I actually simplified my setup tremendously in the last year. I had a big desk here, you know, packed with gear. And I just kind of decided to kind of simplify and leave like some main players that I really love in a rack that I can access, you know, through Patch Bay, or actually they're hardwired now. And I will use those all the time. Like for instance, there's probably not a song that I do that doesn't have this on bass. I mean, it's one of my favorite bass compressors. A friend of mine named Pete Kipley gave that to me. It was something I was trying to buy for a long time, and it's a really great sounding 1176. Love the retro 176. It's a much more silky approach, but great compressor. And then these units up here are just stereo bus compression. And then, you know, if I need something to get a little rally, I use the stressor. A lot of times I'll put bass through this as well and put it into here afterwards for just a little bit more of a tube sound. Yeah, that's it for these days, and it's been nice. And one day I was sitting here and I was working, had this big Argosy, and I was just like, I wonder what would happen if it was just me, a massive screen, and music. On one of the busiest weeks that I had going on in a while, I just called my assistant Jesse and I was just like, dude, I'm ripping the desk out, come over. And we did it, and we reshot the room afterwards, and it's actually been really fun to just feel like it's just me and the music.
Yeah.
There's less reflections and there's less things getting in the way of me and the speakers, and so it's been enjoyable. I think I might change out the desk, but right now this is a special desk to me, so I've just been kind of using that.
Very unique, special, looks kind of antique, a little bit older. Is it from a family member? Or
No, in fact, Pete Kipley again. When I first moved to town, he was one of the first people I met, and he's not doing much music anymore, but at the time when I moved, he was a bit of a hero of mine, and we met. I didn't have a desk, and he graciously gave it to me, and it just means a lot. And I just like the way it looks, and it's got a lot of stories behind it, you know?
Yeah, it's an interesting mix room because it is extremely comfortable in here.
I feel like if I have people over, which is few and far between these days, but it still happens. If we're all just bunched together, I want people to be able to walk around the room and experience it and be able to breathe. And the window's huge for me. I don't want it to feel like a coffin in here.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to breathe. And so that means a lot to me, man. I appreciate you feeling the same, because that was a big goal. I mean, it needs to sound good for sure.
Yep.
But I think if both are possible, I think that's the ideal situation, because you never want people to want to get out of here.
What kind of stuff have you been working on lately?
Man, I've been doing a lot of country these days. I'm working on still a lot of Christian music, which is something that is near and dear to me, and pop and rock in between. And you know, this town has so many different pockets of amazing music, and I try to just really kind of spend as much time in as much of different genres as possible. So it's a great little breeding ground of a collective of music here, and trying to stay diversified and learn from different styles, and you know, just kind of all over the place, but that's the way I like it.
Anything you've worked on that's come out recently that we can have people go check out?
There's a Wilder Woods record coming out that I'm really proud of. Very, very proud of that record. There's a Drew Holcomb record that I'm also incredibly proud of. both produced by a dear friend of mine, Casey Cooley. And those are really, really special records to me. Hopefully some Keith Urban soon coming out that we've been working hard on. And yeah, and also a great, great buddy of mine, a true legend, and someone I really respect as a person and as an artist, Phil Wickham. We're in the middle of his record right now.
First thing I noticed is you've got a bunch of speakers around this room, but they're stereo sets of speakers and they're different brands of speakers.
Yes. These ProAx Studio 100s, the foundation of my career. I used them from day one. A excellent engineer when I moved to town named Efried Shippen sold them to me for a song, and it was a real blessing. And so when I first moved to town, that is what I started on. And up to about a year ago, that's what I lived on. Those are my main speakers that, I mixed a bunch of music on, and I still love them. Still use them at low leveling monitoring just to kind of check out snare levels. Often I'll flip them into mono and make some EQ choices. I love the way they sound. The mid-range and lower mids are the best around, in my opinion. I wanted to find a speaker that I wouldn't have to rely on a sub with. There was always something in the back of my mind, because when I was running these as my mains, I had 2 subs, and I always had this thought in my mind, like, what am I missing in the crossover situation? What am I missing between the sub and the ProAx? And do I run the ProAx full range, or do I, and then eventually I got a Chernoff, which a lot of you guys might know about it, but a lot of you guys might not. It's a really great box that does a lot of analyzation, and it crosses over your speakers with subs, but it also, more importantly, phase aligns like left, right, ProAx, and then the 2 subs. And that was a drastic difference, and I enjoyed it very much. My assistant for a long time, Warren David, for about 3 or 4 months, about a year and a half ago, kept on telling me to try these Dutch and Dutch speakers, which of course I was reluctant to, because I don't like to change things. But he finally convinced me to put them up, and for a while I had them up in tandem with my ProAx, and I found myself just listening a lot more on the Dutch and Dutch than the ProAx as weeks went by when they were set up in the room. So I made the switch over to that. These speakers are incredible. I do not need a sub with them, which is really cool, and there's a lot of sort of comfort in my brain when I'm working on them, knowing that everything's coming from one source, which is something I've never experienced before. And so it's been really fun, and I've got to learn something new. I feel like it's pushed me a little bit in different directions than I would have gone in the past with just the new listening environment, which I think is good as a creative, to be able to expand, and not just sit in your own sort of ways forever, I think it's pushed me in different directions. I feel like I'm able to have a little bit more understanding of what's going on the low end and a little more confidence down there. So these guys have been with me from day one too, Dyne Audio BM5As. And believe it or not, when clients are here, out of all the speakers in the room, most people like to just live on those at a low level. They feel like a lot of times they think that these make the most sense. We can't, like, when clients attend, we camp out on those at low level and make choices. And
you got the iLouds down there too, right?
Oh yeah. I have the iLouds, which haven't been fired up in a while, but we do a lot of traveling, and those come along with me if I have to make any tweaks or revisions while I'm on the road. And I guess one thing to mention with the gear, and actually the last couple of months I've been doing a lot more of this. I kind of fell back in love with a few boxes, but when a mix is sent out to a client, none of those are actually in play by the time it gets to them.
Okay.
It's printed. So it allows me to be very versatile, and those are all kind of set it, forget it settings, and I kind of mix into them, and then I'll just commit it in Pro Tools and print it down. So when a mix leaves my room to a client, everything is in the box. But I'm still able to use these textures. And then if I'm traveling, which my wife and I love to do, and we need to work on some stuff, at least I know that I have these flavors that I've grown to love, but also have the ability to work on songs if I'm not in town. It's been a learning process, and I'm still just fascinated with the fact that, like, it's great to be able to use both worlds in truly hybrid, sort of situation.
This is the Avid HDIO, is that right?
Yep.
And then you've got the Burl.
Yeah, the Burl I use If I want the information to be very, very colored, coming back in, I'll use the Burl.
Yeah, it is interesting. I have such a love-hate relationship with Avid. It's like...
everybody does. Who doesn't?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels like an abusive relationship that I keep coming back to.
Yeah. It's like a really toxic relationship that you can't envision your life without, but you're always asking yourself, why am I in a relationship with Avid?
What are these stands here? Are these sound anchors?
Yes, they are. And they're kind of like a wide body sound anchor to, support those. Dutch and Dutch speakers are about 50 pounds each, so they're beasts. And they have some leveling on the bottom, which is nice.
Cool, and then you got these are the ADJ2s, right?
Yeah, those are sound anchors as well. Believe it or not, like the Pro X sound incredible, against those wall treatments. They just really sing in the low end if they have something to bounce back into, and so they sound great. So when a song hits the world, it's out in the wild and people are ready to listen to. Rarely are they sitting in front of a stereo mix situation that is dialed in and they're sitting dead center and just with their eyes closed. Maybe people in our industry that are listening do that, which is important because it's how you grow your business. But most people are doing emails, they're cooking dinner in the kitchen. So a lot of times when I'm working on a song and I just start to feel like it's close, I'll just put them real low on over there and, I'll return some emails or, do any sort of admin stuff I have to do, or I'll turn it really low and I'll go start rolling putts back here. And it just allows you to experience it in a different way. And the philosophy of that is to be able to, in hopes, listen to it with a different perspective and less zoomed in and more Google Earth approach of a song to see if it's resonating. And then it's just funny about these Dyne Audios. At low level, I feel like most of the time if I have a client here, like they're sitting here, right here, and to put these on right here, it gives us both the same perspective. Although I love these Dutch and Dutch, and they're very dispersive and they sound great, sometimes they don't give the best story of what the song's going on, what's going on in the song if you're not dead center in mix position.
Yeah.
These seem a little bit more omni, if you will, and just a little bit more of an expression of the sound that we both can hear it the same way. When I grew up, started tracking in the tri-state area and stuff, often I was at a Pro Tools rig, with the console facing me, and I'd be like making edits and doing stuff, and the speakers would be to my right or my left, depending on the situation.
Yeah.
So there's also an aspect of me getting used to that. And there's a bit of a comfort to be able to just listen to music on those sides, because for so many years I was just tracking in those situations, making edits or doing whatever I had to do with the speakers to the right or left of me. So that's probably a part of it too.
Really cool. And I think one of the cool things about this series and seeing different people's setups is it really gives permission to other people who are locked into this dogmatic rule set of it's gotta be this way or that way. And it's like, oh man, just throw them over here and hit some putts, walk around.
Yeah.
Like that's how you don't only listen to music right there in the middle.
It's very true. We all learn and we all have the ability to try different things and express yourself with different plugins and different gear. But one thing that has been a real tool for me is I'm pretty stern on the fact that when a producer sends me a song, it's primary that I launch it exactly the way that he left it. And oftentimes especially when they're Pro Tools sessions and not stems, I'll take a look at what producers are doing to certain channels and different processing, and they'd be things that I'd never think of. I've considered it personally like a real great blessing to be able to receive sessions from brilliant producers here in town and all over that, most of the producers that I work for are much better mixers than they think they are. But man, I learned so much from the songs that come in, and I'm really thankful that I have an assistant that is able to take their world and put it into mine, so that I'm able to see how people are creating things. And it's just crazy how everyone does things different. I feel like it's my own little masterclass learning, oh wow, there's like a CLA guitar channel on the drums, and it actually works, that's really cool. And he was probably just trying to move quick, the artist in the room hunting for a vibe, and it worked. I'll even take the producer's mix bus, and I've learned so much about other compressors, other limiters, other EQs that I never would have tried, and it just forces me to buy them, which is great. So, and I learn a lot more. So,
what are some plugins that are like, maybe like one or two staples that you love?
I think two staples for me is the SSL Comp Waves compressor. I also love the old school LA3A Waves compressor. I think that's one of the best compressors. Plugin Alliance is really cool. It's been fun to just see they're constantly releasing, you know, new plugins, and
Yeah.
so I've been into that. But I think some plugins that I've gotten hip to recently that I'm really excited about is anything Baby Audio. Baby Audio makes these really cool plugins. They have a really great reverb that has ducking in it and a built-in delay that's incredible. They have a really great slapback plugin. They have a really great parallel compressing plugin, and they're inexpensive and they sound great. Great slapback plugin. I think there's 6 in the bundle, and I think it's like $110.
Oh, wow.
So check them out. They're really cool.
I'll put a link to like your Instagram. Is there
Great.
a website or something?
I don't
too?
have a website.
No website?
No.
Oh man, must be nice.
Instagram is fine.
Instagram, so if people want to follow you, they can go check that out down the bottom. And thanks again.
Thank you, brother.
We'll see you guys in the next video.